So we're going to take a quick look at food webs because at first look they can look quite confusing, but actually it's just about seeing the individual food chains within the food webs. Why do food webs exist? Well, we looked last week at food chains, but in reality, one plant or one animal doesn't just feed one other animal. So for example, there's not just one animal that feeds on grass or on wildflowers, as we can see from this food web, but that is extended to all other plants and animals as well. So we're going to look just at this very simple food web and see if we can make sense of it, see if we can draw some food chains from it. So let's have a look at our grass first of all, down at the bottom. So grass is down at the bottom, and what can we see from the arrows? Well, we can see from the arrows that go away from grass that grass feeds mice and that grass also feeds rabbits. So why do the arrows go from the grass to the mouse? Well, if you remember, the arrows represent the flow of energy. So as the mouse eats the grass, energy will be passed from the grass into the mouse. So if you're thinking about what does the mouse eat, you're kind of going the opposite direction to the arrows. A mouse is not going to eat a snake. Just think sensibly about which direction your arrows are going, and remember that they represent the flow of energy. So you can see here that grass feeds mice and rabbits. But what else do rabbits and mice feed on? Well, if we go from our mouse back down, we can see that mice also feed on wildflowers and rabbits also feed on wildflowers. So mice and rabbits both feed on wildflowers and grass. Let's look at the top of our food web now with our hawk. What does the hawk feed on? Well, if we go backwards, we can see that a hawk feeds on a snake. It also feeds on a mouse. And it also feeds on rabbits. So you can see that actually food webs show us that animals can eat from different levels of the food chain. Rabbits and mice are on the second level. A snake is on the third level, but a hawk, which is on the fourth level, can feed from the snake on the third level and the rabbit and mice on the second level. So it's feeding from different levels. It doesn't have to just go up step by step. So if you were asked in a question to write a simple food chain from a food web, it's simply a case from starting at the bottom and working your way up, following one line of arrows. Let me show you what I mean. Let's start, for example, with the grass. So the grass is going to be the first thing in our food chain. It is the producer because it can produce its own energy from the sun using photosynthesis. So grass is at the start of our food chain. Remember, we always start at the bottom with our producer. Let's just pick one line of this food web and follow it up. So if we follow it up, we can see that mice feed on grass. Rabbits also feed on grass, but we're going to forget about that for now. So we draw an arrow from our grass, and a mouse is the next thing we write in the food chain. Notice that the arrow is going from grass to mouse, just in the same direction as it is in the food web, and that's because, remember, arrows represent the flow of energy. So energy is moving from the grass to the mouse as it eats the grass. Let's keep following up then. Let's follow this arrow here. And we can see that the next animal in our food chain is a snake. And so in our food chain, we write an arrow and then snake. Let's keep following up. Our next animal in the food chain is a hawk. So if we just follow one arrow from the snake upwards, we get to the hawk. And so how we show that in our food chain is an arrow to show that the energy is moving from the snake to the hawk. So there is a simple food chain written from our food web. But this is not the only food chain we could write from this food web. Let's start again with our grass. So if I highlight our grass here, but rather than going up to a mouse, let's go a different direction. Let's go this time up to our rabbit. So the first two stages of our this food chain is grass, arrow, rabbit. The rabbit is eating the grass and the energy is flowing from the grass into the rabbit. Then we just pick another arrow. We could go this direction, so we could go up to a snake. So we would write in our food chain, arrow, snake. It's easier to write your food chain as you go along to make sure you don't lose track. Then let's follow another arrow going up and we meet our hawk. So we could write arrow, hawk. So this is a different food chain because we have a rabbit in it instead of a mouse. We have followed a different chain of arrows. Let's try writing one more together, and this time let's start at the bottom with our wildflowers. And again, let's follow one arrow up. We could go this time to our mouse. So the start of our food chain will be wildflowers, arrow, mouse. Let's keep following our arrows up. We could go a couple of different directions here, but let's this time go straight to our hawk, because you can see that there's an arrow going from our mouse to our hawk, which shows that hawks eat mice. And so simply I would draw an arrow and write hawk. So you can see with these food chains that they can have different numbers of organisms in them, but they always start with a producer and they end with a consumer. And that's sometimes called our top level carnivore. And those are just 3 examples. There are more food chains that we could get from this food web. For example, we could go from wildflowers to rabbit to hawk. So essentially you're just simply starting at the bottom and following one set of arrows up to the top consumer.